Mark's defiance of his mother's traditional roles and his determination to support his father continued to simmer beneath the surface, adding strain to an already tense household dynamic. As days turned into weeks, the rift between Mark and Vivian deepened, with neither willing to yield. Mark's resolve to challenge his mother's authority only grew stronger, fueled by his belief in the importance of family unity and support. Meanwhile, John remained oblivious to the underlying tension, his mind clouded by the spell that Vivian had cast upon him. Despite his friend's concerns and attempts to intervene, John remained steadfast in his devotion to his wife, blindly obeying her every command. Outside the confines of their home, in confidence's struggles persisted, her shop teetering on the brink of collapse. Desperation gnawed at her as she grappled with the reality of her failing business, each passing day pushing her further into the depths of despair. Ade's academic pursuits also suffered, his once bright future dimmed by the fog of confusion that clouded his mind. Despite his best efforts, he found himself unable to grasp even the simplest of concepts, his academic aspirations slipping further and further out of reach. And Peter, newly healed of his blindness through a spiritual journey of self-discovery, faced the daunting task of rebuilding his life from the ground up. With Amaka by his side, he embarked on a new chapter filled with hope and determination, determined to leave the shadows of his past behind him. As the stage was set for the next act in this unfolding drama, the intertwined fates of these characters hung in the balance, their destinies shaped by the choices they made and the challenges they faced. And looming over them all, the specter of Vivian's incantation continued to cast its dark shadow, threatening to unravel the fragile threads that bound them together. In John, family. Only Mark supports him. The others, Jerry, Eric, and Bethel. They always support their mother. Because they are too lazy. Vivian trained them to be lazy. Even to fetch water, they will not do. Instead of John complaining. He does not say anything. He is not in his right mind. It was the spell used on him. John, friends later became aware that he was the one doing the domestic work in the house. Many people approached him to know the reason why he was doing the domestic work. Either your children or your wife should do it. Why do you always do it? John would say that he loves to work anytime. That is how his parents used to train him. Every time John would find a way to cover up. In their house. When Jerry, Eric, and Bethel saw how their mother was controlling their father. The three of them started insulting John. The three of them always used John to play. Anytime John would beat them. If Vivian comes back. She would warn John not to beat her children. Vivian, if you want to beat your children. It should be Mark. But you see Jerry, Eric, Nathaniel, please don't touch them for me. If you touch them. This house will not be home to both of us. John, my wife, it will not happen again. I promise you. Vivian, okay, don't try it again. If you want to beat someone. Go and beat Mark. I give him to you. Do as you like with him. He is too stubborn. My spirit and his spirit do not match. But anytime Jerry or Eric or Nathaniel insult John, their father. Mark is not happy. Sometimes he will come out to fight Jerry, Eric, Nathaniel. But they will beat him. Because he is the third child of their family. Jerry and Eric are older than him. Their strength and Mark's strength are not the same. They will beat Mark that day. Mark will cry and say to them. Why are you doing this to me? Why do you hate Daddy so much? Is it because Mum said you should? And you are doing it without thinking if it is good or not. Mark, remember, he is our father. We can't insult him because Mum said so. Jerry, leave me alone. What I want to do is what I will do. You can't change me with your words. Eric and Nathaniel said the same thing. Mark does not know what to do anymore. Mark said to himself. One day I will rescue my father from this bondage. Whether I do it by myself or I call someone. When Vivian heard that Peter's blindness had gone away. She was surprised to hear that. Vivian, Peter, you want to tell me that you have the power to challenge me? If you know this, do you still know the other way around? Vivian, Peter, wait for me. I'm coming with full force. Let me check that small power of yours. You want to use it to challenge me. 3 weeks later. Confidence's business has completely collapsed. She can no longer pay for their house rent. Because Confidence is the one providing for her family. Her husband is not doing a better job. Confidence is the one providing for her family. When Confidence's business collapsed. Things started changing. They started suffering. Even eating a day became a problem for them. Confidence became frustrated. Vivian was so happy that Confidence was suffering. Vivian said, "Confidence, I told you that you are too small for me. You are just talking rubbish. Vivian, I told you I will send you back to your house. That I will collapse this business of yours that is making you proud. To the extent of you challenging me." Vivian was happy. On the other hand, John was suffering at the hands of his wife and children. They didn't respect him, they used him for play, despite him being the sole provider for the family. Even still, they didn't respect him. Only Mark stood by his father, defending him at every turn. Mark was the only one who worked hard among his brothers, setting him apart from them. His father loved him dearly. John continued to suffer under his wife's dominance. One day, Vivian said, "It's time to eliminate confidence. She's threatened me with death, so I must act first." She traveled to the native doctor who had given her power before. When she arrived, the native doctor asked, "What brings you to my shrine today?" Vivian replied, "There's a woman who has challenged me. She threatened to kill me, and I want to be the one to strike first. I can't sit idly meanwhile she plans my demise." The native doctor agreed, warning Vivian that the blood would be on her hands. Unperturbed, Vivian accepted the consequences. After performing the necessary incantations, the native doctor handed Vivian a charm, instructing her to wear it and embrace the person she wished to kill. Within a week, they would perish. Vivian thanked the native doctor and left. Upon returning home, Vivian began plotting how to approach Confidence, devising a plan for their interaction. She believed she could lure Confidence into a deadly embrace. Finally, Vivian settled on a strategy and set a date to visit Confidence. On the appointed day, Vivian prepared herself, concealing the charm beneath her clothing. Her happiness was palpable, even noticed by her children. Mark remarked, "Today is the first time I've seen my mother so joyful. Perhaps she's won 20 million or something." He hoped it was good news. Once Vivian was ready, she informed her children she was visiting a friend and left, instructing her husband to prepare dinner and fetch water upon her return. With the charm hidden on her person, Vivian set out to fulfill her dark purpose. Vivian went out with a bad plan, hiding something sneaky under her clothes. Mark, her son, felt that something wasn't right. He decided to follow her secretly to see what she was up to. He slipped out of the house without anyone noticing and followed Vivian through the busy streets, keeping his distance so she wouldn't see him. Meanwhile, John, Vivian's husband, was busy with his chores at home and didn't notice that his wife was gone. He didn't realize the danger lurking nearby. When Vivian reached Confidence's house, she was nervous but ready to do something bad. Just as she was about to knock on the door, Mark grabbed her shoulder. Vivian was surprised to see him and tried to make excuses, but Mark didn't believe her. Mark asked his mom what she was doing and what she was hiding. Vivian tried to act tough, but Mark could tell she was scared. He refused to leave and insisted on knowing what she was up to. Vivian's fake act fell apart as Mark confronted her. She felt guilty for her actions. In a moment of panic, she tried to attack Mark, but he was too quick for her. Mark asked his mom why she was doing bad things when she taught him to be good. "Mark, I heard what you said in the house before you started coming this way. Mark, I saw you when you carried something and put it on your body, covering it with your clothes. Mark, Mom, I want you to stop doing bad things, it's not good. Vivian, are you mad? Are you labeling me a bad person? Who told you that I was holding something in my clothes? Mark, nobody told me, I saw you when you carried it and hid it in your clothes. You can't lie. Vivian, are you a monitoring spirit or something? How did you see me? I don't know if you are a spirit or what. Mark, I'm not a spirit. Maybe the spirit of the person you want to harm is too strong. That's why I heard your voice in your room and decided to check what you were doing. Before, I saw you with a charm, and later, you hid it inside your clothes. Vivian, get away from me and let me do what I want. Otherwise, I'll throw you out of my sight. Mark, no, I'm not going anywhere. All I want is for us to go back home. I don't want you to continue with your plans. Mark, if you insist on continuing, I'll call for help, and people will gather here. I'll tell them about your plans. Vivian, Mark, are you challenging your mother? Mark, I'm not challenging you. I'm just telling you the truth. Vivian, don't tell anybody about this. Did you hear what I said? If I hear about this from anyone else, I won't tolerate it from you. Mark, I won't tell anybody, but promise me that you won't come back later and carry out your plans to harm that person. Vivian, I promise I won't come back to execute my plans. Vivian and Mark continued on their way back. While walking, Vivian thought to herself, look at this young boy challenging his mother. How dare he? Vivian, what am I going to do with this boy now? He's crossed the line. He's only 15 years old, when he's 20 or 25, he'll be beating me. Vivian, I will kill Mark. If I lose only him, I won't lose anything. I will kill him before he kills me. Vivian, Mark, you are a dead boy walking. Unbeknownst to her, there is a power installed inside Mark's body, of which even Mark is unaware. In Mark's school, there was a girl named Sandra. Deborah was blessed with extraordinary wisdom, despite her young age. She knew how to use ordinary leaves to consult spiritual powers. Deborah could use ordinary leaves to cure the sick and protect her loved ones. One day, Deborah approached Mark and asked him to be her boyfriend, but Mark declined, focusing on his education for now. After that day, Deborah decided to protect Mark until they finished secondary school. Deborah went into the bush, collected some leaves, and prepared a protective charm for Mark. After finishing the preparation, a snow-like substance rose from the ground, searching for Mark and entering his body to protect him. From that day on, Mark's spirit became too strong for any harm to come near him. When Vivian and Mark reached their house, John had returned from work and started preparing dinner. John welcomed Vivian and Mark and asked how they had been. Vivian, we're coming back from my friend's house. John, okay, you're welcome. After John finished preparing the food, he served his wife and children before eating himself. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, Vivian brought out her calabash and started chanting incantations, wishing for Mark's death. However, the power protecting Mark was stronger than hers. The next morning, Vivian was shocked to see Mark alive and well. Vivian began to fear Mark, thinking he might be a witch. From that day on, Vivian treated Mark differently. Meanwhile, John continued to suffer under Vivian's spell, and Mark helped his father with household chores. As Vivian grapples with her sinister intentions towards her own son, Mark, an unforeseen power emerges within him, much to Vivian's disbelief. Despite her attempts to harm him through mystical means, Mark remains unscathed, protected by forces beyond her comprehension. While Vivian struggles with her fear and resentment towards Mark, John remains oblivious to the turmoil brewing within his household. Despite Vivian's efforts to maintain a facade of normalcy, an undercurrent of tension permeates the family dynamic. Meanwhile, Deborah, the wise and resourceful girl from Mark's school, continues to keep a watchful eye over him, aware of the dangers lurking in the shadows. With her knowledge of spiritual practices and protective charms, Deborah becomes an unexpected ally in Mark's quest for safety. As Vivian's paranoia intensifies and her grip on reality begins to falter, Mark finds himself navigating a treacherous path fraught with unseen dangers. With Deborah's guidance and the mysterious power shielding him from harm, Mark must unravel the mysteries of his own existence while confronting the sinister forces that threaten to tear his family apart. One day at Mark's school, Deborah approached him and said, "Mark, what are you saying about the thing I told you about?" Mark replied, "What are you talking about?" Deborah said, "About you being my boyfriend. I have been begging you to be my friend since." Mark responded, "I have told you that I'm still too young to pursue a friendship. Right now, my focus is on my education." Deborah insisted, "I know we are still in school. We can still be friends and continue our schooling. We will help each other." Mark asked, "What's your name again, Deborah?" "For now, I don't need a girlfriend. Perhaps we can be friends later." Deborah expressed, "I can't wait until we finish school. I need to be a part of your life, to watch over you. You have an enemy who wants to harm you, and I don't want anything to happen to you." Deborah added, "I love you so much." Mark questioned, "Are you serious? Are you saying that someone wants to kill me?" Deborah affirmed, "Yes, my spirit is telling me that someone is after your life." Mark inquired, "Are you serious?" Deborah reassured him, "Yes, but don't worry, I've got your back. Nothing will happen to you." Mark questioned, "Did you say that you've got my back? How are you going to protect me?" Deborah explained, "Before I tell you anything, you must first accept my request to be my boyfriend. Then I will know that we are united, and I'll tell you everything." Mark doubted, "You're not serious. I'm not sure that you're protecting me at all. You're just claiming to protect me without taking any action." Mark accused, "You just want to use this approach to enter my life. I have seen people like you before, making false claims." Deborah defended herself, "If not for the love I have for you, I wouldn't even bother talking to you. You're special to me." Mark admitted, "I'm surprised that you're talking to me. To be honest with you, I have not seen you with anyone else." Deborah explained, "It's because of the love I have for you. If you don't accept me, I don't care, it won't change my mind about loving you." Mark responded, "Deborah, I will give you feedback concerning the friendship you're proposing. Let me think about it, okay?" Deborah said, "Whatever you are thinking, just bear in mind that I love you so much. Then she left. Mark thought to himself, what is this girl talking about? Claiming she is the one protecting me. Is she telling the truth or not? He prayed, God, please protect me from any harm on my way. After school that day, Mark went back home. When he reached home, his brothers had come back from school. Eric and Nathaniel were outside playing football, while Jerry was inside watching television. Their parents were not around. John was at a construction site working, while Vivian was at her shop selling foodstuffs. Mark dropped his bag, took his bath, and ate his food. He called his brothers and said to them, let's go and fetch water so that when our parents come back, they will have water to use for bathing. Jerry replied, I'm the senior here. You guys should go and fetch the water. Mark said, okay, tell Eric and Nathaniel to follow me, let's go and fetch the water. Jerry retorted, leave me alone. Tell them by yourself. Don't you have a mouth? Mark told Eric and Nathaniel, let's go and fetch water so that when our parents come back, they will have water to use for bathing. Eric and Nathaniel refused, saying they were not going anywhere. They said, Mark, if you claim to be a good person, why can't you go and fetch the water by yourself without calling us? Mark explained, because I'm the only person in this house, the only child our parents have. Why are you guys behaving this way? Mark continued, you guys can't do anything. All these things you are doing now will affect you in the future. You are becoming lazy and incapable. Mark concluded, I will do it by myself. What I understand in this world is that whatever someone does in life will always have repercussions. Mark then carried their bucket and started going to fetch the water, just to help his father. Because when their father, John, came back, he would have to fetch the water, as it had become his responsibility due to a spell cast on him. John did the household chores without complaining about it. As the days passed, Mark found himself grappling with the enigma that was Deborah's cryptic warnings. Despite his initial skepticism, her words lingered in the recesses of his mind, whispering of unseen dangers and hidden truths. One evening, as he sat alone in his room, the weight of uncertainty pressing down upon him, Mark made a decision. It was time to confront Deborah and unravel the mystery shrouding her cryptic warnings. The following day at school, Mark sought out Deborah, his determination burning bright within him. As he approached her, he found her sitting alone under a tree, lost in thought. Deborah, he called out, his voice tinged with a mixture of apprehension and resolve. Startled, Deborah looked up, her eyes widening in surprise at Mark's unexpected presence. Mark, she said, her tone cautious yet curious. What brings you here? Taking a deep breath to steady his nerves, Mark plunged into the heart of the matter. I need answers, Deborah, he began, his words echoing with a newfound sense of urgency. About the things you said to me. Deborah's gaze flickered with a mixture of emotions, surprise, apprehension, and perhaps, a hint of guilt. What things? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The warnings, Mark replied, his voice unwavering. About someone wanting to harm me. About you claiming to protect me. Deborah's eyes widened, her facade crumbling under the weight of Mark's scrutiny. I didn't mean to cause you distress, she stammered, her words tinged with regret. But I couldn't bear to see you in danger, Mark. I had to warn you. Mark's heart clenched at the vulnerability in Deborah's eyes, her words striking a chord within him. But why? He asked, his voice softening with genuine curiosity. Why me? Deborah took a deep breath, her gaze locking with Mark's in a silent plea for understanding. Because, she began, her voice trembling yet resolute. Because I care about you, Mark. More than you know. In that moment, the walls of skepticism and doubt crumbled around Mark, leaving behind a newfound sense of clarity. Deborah's intentions, though veiled in mystery, were rooted in genuine concern and love. I understand, Mark murmured, his heart heavy yet strangely lightened by the revelation. Thank you, Deborah. For caring. Mark, but Deborah, I need to know more. About all this. Deborah, when you accept me to be your friend, then I will teach you something you will use to know whatever you want to know in this life. Mark, I will give you feedback on that. Deborah and Mark left the place. Meanwhile, in Vivian's shop, there is a woman named Gift who is having a problem with Vivian. Vivian, this Gift is trying me as Confidence does. And Gift wants me to do to her what I did to Confidence, in making sure her business collapses. And I'm going to do to Gift the same thing. No one tries me and goes free. She has crossed her line by challenging me. I will tell Gift why they call me Vivian the Small God. Thanks for watching. If you want us to continue and also know what happened next, type continue on the comments section and subscribe to our channel and turn on your notification.